Teach me about the Great Lakes. Teach me about the Great Lakes. Cha! Welcome back to Teach Me About the Great Lakes, a twice-monthly podcast in which I, a Great Lakes novice, ask people who are smarter and harder working than I am to teach me all about the Great Lakes. My name is Stuart Carlton, and I work with Illinois Indiana Sea Grant, and I know a lot about a day of snow followed by a day of sweat.
Yes.
But I don't know a lot about the Great Lakes, and that's the point of this here podcast. I'm joined today, so lucky, by the woman with only one nickname, at least this year, Megan, the lake lover Gunn. Megan, guess what? We have an Ask Megan question.
I'm ready for it.
You ready for it? This is from listener Anderson, the great Anderson. And here's what the great Anderson has to say. What is your unpopular opinion or hot take about the Great Lakes?
Oh, man. My unpopular opinion would be it's too cold for too long. It's too cold for too long. Like, you can't really enjoy it, especially Lake Michigan, until like later in the summer. But I want to go, as soon as school is out, I want to go to the beach. And you can't really do that in Lake Michigan until like late July.
So that's not a hot take. That's a too cold take. But I'm totally in on this. Yeah, I'm always like, let's bring the kids up to the lake so that they can drown or whatever. And and then I look at the temperature and it's like 51 degrees. And I'm like, I'm not taking the kids up to the lake. I agree. Lakes, you're too cold for too long.
Yeah.
A little bit of cold is good. Love a good. Oh, especially, when you go to like South Haven, Michigan in August and it's cool then and not super. That's pretty nice. But in between, too cold. All right. Well, that has nothing to do with anything. Other announcements, Lakey Awards, definitely on. So for those of you who don't know, we every year except for last year and maybe the year before, for various internal to the team reasons, we host the Lakey Awards, which is possibly not the least prestigious podcast-related Great Lakes Awards that there are. You can nominate things in categories such as the Great Lakes Science of the Year, Great Lakes News Story of the Year, Great Lakes Animal of the Year.
Animals are my favorite to hear about.
Yeah. Great Lakes Non-Animal of the Year. Or you can do like a bonus, whatever. Look, there's a place on the form for you to nominate whatever you want.
Mm-hmm.
So just go right now in your podcast reader. I want you to tell your passenger to grab the steering wheel. And then you look down at your phone, and I want you to tap on the link that's in your show notes. And I want you to do some nominating. Or, I'm sorry, I'm getting electrocuted right now. Pull the car over and then do it. That's probably a better way.
I think phones have advanced way more since then when you couldn't drive without like having things probably hurt your hands. Do you remember? I mean, I remember. I'm much younger than you are, but I do remember. I'm a little younger than you are. I remember when the phones were like in the glove compartment and that is how you use them. But I'm sure that there were some kind of technical issues.
How did you use the glove phone in the what?
My dad had a car that had a glove, like a telephone within the glove compartment, and you got to.
Oh yeah, like car phones. Oh yeah. No, my mom had one of those, and you would had to call and basically instantly because the amount it cost was just nuts. And so you would pick it up and you'd be like, I'm running late, click, or go kiss your sister. And you had to hang up. So it was like anyway, Megan, you're getting us distracted, which is normally my job.
I'm sorry.
Point is, no, we have a great conversation we're coming tonight. So at the end of the year, what we spend a lot of time thinking about is we reflect on the end of the year and what we've done over the year. And it's a time for turning internal. In my family, we have a made-up holiday we celebrate called Bjorgol Forgelstag, which is too long a story to tell in this show. But the point is this, you start to think about the passage of time. But that's not actually the only passage that you might start to think about. Another passage is the passage of fish. And that is the point of this here's show today. Today's guest is Jeff Tyson, who's the program manager in fishery management at the Great Lakes Fishery Commission over there in beautiful Ann Arbor, Michigan, home of Zingerman's and many other fine sandwich and donut shops. Jeff, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Stuart, and thanks for having me.
Oh, we're so excited that you are here. So, Fish Passage is, no matter how tenuous the connection I just made to Fish Passage, it's actually pretty important. So tell us, what is Fish Passage? Why is this a deal in the Great Lakes? We think about impounded areas or whatever. Why do we care about Fish Passage in the Great Lakes?
Yeah, so Stuart, that's a great question. There's a number of fish in the Great Lakes that actually utilized stream and tributary habitat for various life history stages. So many of the species utilize tributaries for spawning or reproduction, go up and deposit eggs, and then those eggs hatch out and larvae are moved downstream into the Great Lakes. So they're a significant source of fish production for many of the Great Lakes for a number of species. So I'm talking lake sturgeon, our tributary spawners, walleye, you got coaster brook trout that move up streams, white bass, a whole host of species that utilize tributaries for reproduction. So getting up to that spawning habitat is really, really important for production of these fish that are feeding the fisheries across the Great Lakes.
And so it's all about tributaries and fish spawning and things like that. And so is that something, it seems to me like that's something that's largely a result, of course, of human interaction with the lakes and humans sort of modifying the lakes and things like
Yep.
that. Is that something that's kind of a relatively new concern, or is that something we've been working on for a while?
Yeah, no, this has been an issue for a while. I think there's long been recognition that restricting passage in these tributaries has impacted the productivity of the Great Lakes fisheries, and so folks have been on the landscape for a number of years trying to address fish passage. And in some cases, that fish passage is selective fish passage, where you're leaving the barrier in but moving fish up above that barrier so they can access spawning habitat, versus other situations where the barrier can come out. So one of the things that we have to sort of deal with here at the Great Lakes Fishery Commission is we work with fisheries management agencies across the basin to try to enhance fish production, but we are also the primary organization that controls sea lamprey, which is an invasive species that utilizes tributaries as well for spawning. So we have to evaluate these systems within the context of what the value is for fish production and what the risk is associated with sea lamprey.
Yeah, and that's super hard to kind of make that trade-off. Do you use monitoring studies to do that each year, or is it just something, okay, where people, so they come in and they sample the populations and figure it out? How do you use that information?
So for a number of the projects that we're looking at for fish passage, we generally get sea lamprey control larval assessment crews up in the watershed, and they'll go up and sample that watershed, see if they find any sea lamprey, because sometimes there is escapement around the barriers. And then also if they see any what we call surrogate species, so other native lampreys would be an indication that the system could potentially support sea lampreys in that system. Also environmental DNA, which is you sample the water to see if you can detect these species up there. Those are ways that we use to sort of inform that risk around sea lamprey. And then that helps us inform what the best strategy is for enhancing fish passage.
Yeah, I like the way you think about that in terms of risk or trade-offs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because nothing's 100% ever, but it's what people don't know. So my master's was in fisheries biology
I
a
knew
long
that.
time ago, even before I was the world's worst middle school science teacher. I had a master's in fisheries biology.
Oh, wow.
And so working with a lot of, and I was not a skilled fish biologist in very many ways, mainly in ways that involve me being lazy. But that said, what you realize is when you work with fish biologists is they really want to promote the fishery kind of broadly defined, right? Even when it's managers who are trying to set limits and everything like that, they're trying to set limits as high as they can to let people catch fish. And so I did all this work in Florida and Georgia, and in Florida, the fish stuff was real controversial, especially around the time I was there around in the early 2000s. There's a big reef fish controversy. But I think people sometimes miss that fundamental thing. What y'all are trying to do is enable this resource, right? But it's all about risks and trade-offs, both within the fishery, but also broader.
Yeah.
And I think, when you're talking about passages, a lot of times these broader things come into play too, because these are impounded rivers.
Yep.
Yeah. And so we want to talk about one kind of specific one, right, which is the Flat Rock and Hurock Dam's feasibility study. Can you give us some background on this?
Sure. The Flat Rock, Hurock Dam's feasibility study was just completed this summer, actually, and it was completed with a broad group of partner agencies, including the Huron-Clinton Metro Parks, the City of Flat Rock, the Huron River Watershed Council, and Michigan DNR. And really it was to look at these systems to try to enhance fish passage to increase production for, in particular, Lake Erie. Just background on the dams. They've been in the system for a long time. There's two of them, and they're actually about 1,000 yards apart. There's a larger flat rock dam that impounds water behind it, and then the smaller Hurock Dam is sort of a lowhead dam that's downstream. The Metro Parks owns the Flat Rock Dam, the larger dam, and the city of Flat Rock owns the Hurock Dam, the smaller dam. So they requested that we put in for a request for funding to start a feasibility study to explore what options were out there to help with enhancing fish passage within those systems. So that's kind of how it came about. We actually put in a request for proposals and successfully acquired a grant through NOAA Restoration Center. And so we've got some funding to execute the feasibility study. And the feasibility study really is looking at a range of alternatives that would enhance fish passage and then generate some cost estimates and also looks at the other impacts of each one of those alternatives. So each one's going to have some level of environmental impact, not only fish passage, but other impacts as well. So that's what they kind of work through with a feasibility study.
Jeff, I will say I'm a little geographically challenged. So could you tell us where the city of Flat Rock is located and just kind of like where in the Great Lakes this project is situated?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've probably skipped over that. The Flat Rock and Hurock dams are both on the Huron River, which is a fairly large tributary to Western Lake Erie. So it really flows down from northwest of Detroit, the city of Detroit, all the way down to what we call the downriver areas, which are areas that are south of Detroit, and then flows in right at the very top of Western Lake Erie.
Thank you. Really appreciate that.
Yeah.
And so you mentioned a little bit about the sea lamprey, but what other fishes use the waterways around there?
Sure. The actual proposal itself is targeted at restoring primarily walleye and white bass to the upstream systems. They're largely non-existent upstream because of the restrictions from the dam, but also lake sturgeon are identified. Now, there are no extant lake sturgeon populations or fish in the river at this point in time, but I think if they had additional access, it might be a suitable river for restoration down the road. So those are the primary targets, but there's a whole host of fish species in that river that would benefit from the connectivity, ranging from suckers to some of the smaller cyprinids or minnows, and even steelhead move up that system.
And so the idea based on this study is that they might. So this is a big deal. Thinking about it, this actually goes back to a long time. This idea of our relationship with nature, humans' relationship with nature, and like it, around the 19th and 20th century, the turn of that century was a very command and control kind of scenario. That's when we were building dams and reversing the Chicago River and that sort of thing. And where I'm from in New Orleans, they really started trying to lock the Mississippi River into its flow. And our relationship with our understanding of that is kind of changing, I think. At Sea Grant, we do a lot of stuff now. We're working on nature-based solutions to shoreline hardening and those sorts of things. And so my understanding is this feasibility study, they're talking about kind of a different approach, right, to maintaining that reservoir. And that's this idea of rock arches, right? I don't understand. Tell me about rock arches and what do they do to maintain the reservoir while still being more nature-based?
Sure. So that actually is one of the alternatives that was explored in the feasibility study. And rock arch rapids are essentially a way to ensure upstream reservoir water levels can be maintained while allowing for fish passage. So right now it's a 15-foot vertical dam face that fish would have to get over. And what the rock arch rapids would essentially do is create an incline of about, between 1% and 5% that fish could actually swim up. And you place these arches out there, and they've got resting pools and places that adult fish can get in behind to sort of rest and then move on up that stream. So it's a way to kind of keep a reservoir behind a dam in place, but allow for additional fish passage up through sort of a central thaw weg that's created.
I love that you all are thinking about the fish and their needs. Like, I'm sure most people aren't thinking like, I'm sure most people are thinking, okay, well, they will just launch themselves through this passageway, but that's a lot of energy to expend to be like fighting against the current. And so I really like the idea that they have these like little resting pools that they can just kind of take a break and then go up a little bit more and take a little break until they get up to where they need to go.
Yeah, and that's sort of one of the challenges that we deal with on a lot of these fish passage projects is many of the fish in the Great Lakes are what we call non-jumping species. So they're not able to jump like a Pacific salmon. You know, you see the images from out on the West Coast where salmon are piling up over massive falls. Walleye,
Jumping
white
into
bass,
bears' mouths.
yeah, you're jumping in bears' mouths, exactly. Yeah, walleye and white bass are non-jumping species, so we have to address sort of their non-jumping characteristics, and the rock arch rapids is one strategy that does that.
Excellent. Also, you should look into the salmon cannon, just as an FYI. Always worth researching. But so what is jumping, though? And there's not a story here, I don't think. But when I hear jumping, because of where we live in the Wabash River system, I think of the invasive carp, right? Because they are definitely a different type of jumping species. But holy moly, they jump. But removing this dam, there's no carp story up there, is there?
No, there are no invasive carp. Now, common carp are ubiquitous throughout the Great Lakes system, but no invasive carp at this point in time.
Yeah, no, I didn't figure. So I hear Rock Arch Rapids, and I know this is one of the things recommended, and they're meant, they're who knows what. Between recommendation and implementation, there's a lot of steps. It's kind of a black, But when I was younger and more nimble, I did a lot of whitewater canoeing. Is there a recreation story with the Rock Arch Rapids too? I don't think you can really, if my understanding of those is you can't really like canoe or kayak down them. But is there a recreation part there?
Actually, it will allow for recreational usage, kayaks and canoes. And I've seen several examples in other locales that were not only, open to canoes, kayaks, but also had some whitewater features in them, if you will.
Mm-hmm. That makes sense. And so, I mean, that sounds like a lot of win if you implement something like this, where it's like you're taking what was a dam and replacing it with something that's good for the fish and also enables different types of recreational users. But if you were to put the devil's advocate hat on, like, are there negative trade-offs associated with this?
Really, there's cost. So every solution is going to cost some amount of funds to implement. And so that's one that we're going to have to address. It's a change in sort of that environment between sort of the Flat Rock and the Hurock dams. So it's going to look different. Now, that's either a positive or a negative, but a lot of these things are subjective, but it's going to definitely going to change the environment for sure. Rock Arch Rapids and existence of that reservoir upstream, and I'm speaking strictly from a fisheries biologist standpoint, these things the species we're targeting are used to traveling up flowing systems or loadic systems, water flowing. So once they get up the Rock Arch Rapids, they're going to have to navigate the impoundment, the reservoir itself, to get up to more riverine type environments. And we just really don't know from a behavioral standpoint how effective that's going to be. So
they could essentially get lost in the reservoir potentially, or just be ineffective there and maybe more subject to predation or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Or they might turn around and head back down.
Oh, they might be like, forget this.
Yeah.
This is for the birds. Yeah.
So,
excellent.
But again, that's one of the alternatives that was identified in the feasibility study. And
that's the one that got me most excited. Is there another cool alternative in there?
Yeah, there's actually 4 alternatives, if you will, including the Rock Arch Rapids. There is a complete removal alternative that was built out with active and passive restoration, and then there's also installation of nature-like bypass channel around both of those barriers. So those are the kind of 4 alternatives that were built out and costed out, at least at the initial level. So, and go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so what? So what's next with these 4 options? Because it's been, I think you said, voted on recently. Which plan is going to move forward?
So we're in the process of essentially supporting the dam owners right now to make an evaluation of the current situation and which alternative might be best for them. So, like I said, the city of Flat Rock owns the Hurock Dam. They're in the process of evaluating those alternatives and trying to figure out where they want to go. Same thing with the Huron-Clinton Metro Parks. They're evaluating those alternatives, looking at options, and actually, I think there should be at least a decision here in the next bit about where the Huron-Clinton Metro Parks is going to go with the Flat Rock Dam.
Okay, so if you do decide to go with the Rock Arches plan, which I mean I love because the pools, the resting, all the things. How long do you think it'll take to see the benefits of the dam working? Like, will the fish kind of immediately start using it? Or do you think it'll take them a while to realize, oh, I can move from point A to point C now that this B is gone?
Yeah. So in my experience with many of these, in particular dam removal projects, the fish respond really quickly.
Okay.
I was involved in one down in Ohio, and we removed the dam in 2018, and had assessment crews out, and they were detecting walleye upstream 2 years following. So
Okay.
it doesn't take them long, and they like to push their nose upstream. That's just what fish do.
I like it. Are there any other fish passage projects outside of this one in Ohio that have been completed recently or are undergoing like similar feasibility studies that you would like our listeners to know about?
Yeah, there's a whole host of fish passage projects across the basin. We just wrapped one up in Wisconsin on Lake Superior, addressing brook trout passage on Nevagamon Creek, which is a tributary to the Brule River, which is one of the bigger trips to Lake Superior. But I guess one of the other projects that your listeners might be interested in is a project that the Great Lakes Fishery Commission is leading on selective fish passage on the Boardman River, which is up in Traverse City, which the northwestern part of the state on Lake Michigan. A very large project that is actually developing selective fish passage techniques. And so they've re-engineered the dam itself. Most of the dams upstream of the Union Street Dam, which is the lowermost barrier, have come out. So it's largely a free-flowing system except for the Union Street Dam. And then they've installed a lot of fish passage testing technologies there. And we're going to be developing sort of strategies for sorting fish and sorting the good ones out and moving them up versus sorting the invasive ones out and not letting them get up there over the next 10 years.
Huh, no kidding. Is that using like computer stuff or is it like just physical shapes of things?
It's a whole host of strategies. I think they're kind of taking a cue from the single stream recycling strategy. So they're using computer aided, visualization and imaging to moving fish around based on behavior and sorting in that fashion. Some fish swim towards the bottom versus others, swim up in the water column and using sound and pheromones and those kinds of things as well to try to sort fish out.
Love a good pheromone.
Technology has come such a long way.
It really is. Yeah. And again, don't forget the salmon cannon. Well, Jeff, this is interesting stuff. I love hearing about all these fish passages, and it to me, it's cool about the fish, and it's cool about the fishery, but to me, it's also the story of our changing relationship with nature, I think,
Absolutely.
Which is one reason why it's there. And I could talk about this stuff forever, because like just hearing you use all these words, it brings me right back to grad school, and I'm like, oh yeah, I engage in that. But that's actually not why we invited you here on Teach Me About the Great Lakes this week. The reason that we invited you on Teach Me About the Great Lakes is to ask you 2 questions. And the first one is this. If you could have a great donut for breakfast or a great sandwich for lunch, which would it be?
Well, that's an easy one. It's a great sandwich for lunch for me.
Excellent.
My wife would debate that because she's a donut girl.
Yeah. Well, she can come on the show and have that conversation at some point. But today we're talking to you. So I'm going to go to Ann Arbor, where the Great Lakes Fishery Commission is. And I'm going to go to Zingerman's for breakfast. So don't send me there. I'm going to wait 45 minutes for a $9 coffee. And I'm going to enjoy that. And then I'm going to go to meetings, I guess, lots of meetings, because that's my life. And then I'm going to want to go for a sandwich. So where should I go to get an amazing sandwich in Ann Arbor?
Well, you just said it, Zingerman's.
Going back, baby. Okay.
Right. Deli. That's
the way to go.
And what I would like to know is, what is a special place in the Great Lakes that you'd like to share with our audience, and what makes it special?
That's a tough one, because I've got lots of places that are special to me anyhow. Western Lake Erie holds a special place in my heart, not just because of the walleye and yellow perch fisheries, but I worked on Western Lake Erie for 25 years as a part of the crew that assesses and monitors Lake Erie for the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. So it's got a special place for me. But I also enjoy other places in the Great Lakes, and Waugoshance Point, Wilderness Point, which is up on northern Lake Michigan, is another place that's absolutely a phenomenal fishery, number one, but just, it's just visually just amazing up there.
Excellent. Well, Jeff Tyson, Program Manager for Fisheries Management at the Great Lakes Fishery Commission, doing a lot of important work.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on and teaching us all about the Great Lakes.
Well, thanks for having me.
Oh, man. Love a good damn conversation.
For the listeners, because you can't see us, I am physically shaking my head. Just puns. Fish puns.
Yeah, well, the damn thing is, it's the hackiest whatever, but it's always fun to say damn a bunch and be allowed to say it because of the damn conversation where we're talking about the dam removal.
And fish passages.
Yeah, and the dam rapids and, the fish dam passages and what have you. Hey, we got a few announcements. 'Tis the season for announcements. We already talked about the Lakeys at the top of the show. Go vote. I'm excited to see how it comes out. There's a few categories in particular I'm fired up about this year. The big thing is, will the lake sturgeon win Great Lakes Animal of the Year? It's probably a multi-time runner-up. It's never won.
It's a great fish.
It is. Well, it's a good fish.
Okay. It's a really good fish.
We'll see, but is it a Lakey Award winner? That's the question. Now that it's December, it's also Fishmas, right? Do you know about the Fishmas?
I do know about Fishmas. I was a strong follower on back in the day when it was Twitter.
What happened?
And
Stopped going to the gym?
No, I just, stopped paying attention only because my attention span is only so long.
Yeah, it's because you spend so much time on Twitter. That'll sap it. That's why I had to quit all that stuff. But anyways, Fishmas. So what Dr. Catfish, our own Katie O'Reilly, invasive species specialist probably at Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. She talks about Great Lakes, generally Great Lakes fish every day. And but she doesn't just do it like your normal advent calendar, 3 or 4 weeks or whatever. She goes all the way through Christmas itself, starting on December 1st. It's a lot.
25
all the way through
days.
25 days of Fishmas. It reminds me, did you ever hear my song about Fishmas?
I don't think so.
Oh, we'll put a link to that in the show notes. I did that for
I'm
Ask
excited.
Dr. Fish a couple of years ago, the 25 days of Fishmas. That'll be in the show notes. And the other reason I bring that up is starting next year, not this year, starting next year, Ask Dr. Fish is back, baby.
I'm excited.
Yes. I think we'll probably start in February. I'm not sure. We're going to do we'll have a big announcement later. But since you're listening now, we'll preview it. We're going to do every month, not every other month. We're going monthly on Ask Dr. Fish. We're doubling down, literally.
Goodness gracious.
It's as excited. And then, we got this. We got the Lakeys coming up, and then we're going to take a long winter's nap before coming back in January. Who knows what we'll talk about then. The winter, we always like to talk about shipwrecks, so we may find some shipwreck conversation.
Yeah. The cold really does the ships in.
Yeah.
But also keeps them preserved.
Too much cold.
Too much cold.
Teach Me About the Great Lakes is brought to you by the fine people at Illinois Indiana Sea Grant. We encourage you to check out the cool stuff we do at iiseagrant.org and at ILINC Grant on Facebook, the old Blueski, and other social media.
Our senior producer is Carolyn Foley, and Teach Me About the Great Lakes is produced by Megan Layla Clevergun and Rini Miles. Ethan Chitty is our associate producer and fixer, and our coordinating producer is Moti Agumbiade. Our super fun podcast artwork is by Joel Davenport, and the show is edited by the lovely Sandra Savoda.
Hey, if you have a question or comment about the show, a nice comment, please email us at teachmeaboutthegreatlakes@gmail.com. Last email we got, people are still in an uproar about this surfing Malibu, the Midwest thing. So if you want to talk about that, send us an email, teachmeaboutthegreatlakes@gmail.com. You can leave a message on our hotline. We'll play it on the air if you want. We don't care. Just don't.
We would love to play it.
We would love to play it on air. Just don't make us bleep you. But anyway, that's 765-496-IISG. If you have one of those old car phones, it's 4474. You're going to use the little letters. Anyway, you can send us a postcard if you want to. We love postcards.
You can send them to 195 Marcellus Street, West Lafayette, in 47907.
That's right. West Lafayette is
Yes, that is where we are located. In the midst of Indiana. Far from the lake. But we get there.
Thanks for listening. Keep grading those lakes.